Welcome to the Chaos Chronicles, where parenting, humor, and the hard truths of foster care, adoption, and big behaviors collide. Hi, I'm Stacey Hickey. I'm mom of 6. I've been a foster parent to 17 children, and I'm the adoptive mom of my 2 youngest daughters. With years of experience as a child abuse detective turned school counselor, I'm here to offer real talk, expert advice, and plenty of laughs. If you're navigating the chaos of parenting, whether you're a foster or adoptive parent, a special needs parent, or just trying to make sense of the wild ride of family life, this podcast is for you. Each episode delivers practical tips, heartwarming stories, and a dose of comedy to help you embrace the beautiful chaos of your journey. Let's normalize the struggles of parenting children with big behaviors, ADHD, autism, and trauma, and create a space where you never have to walk this path alone. Laugh, learn, and lean into the chaos together. Subscribe now to stay updated on all new episodes. Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to the Chaos Chronicles. I am so glad you are here. Today, we're going to be talking about how to survive your ADHD child and not lose your sanity. Now, let me tell you, I feel qualified to talk about this because 3 of my 6 children have ADHD, and there have been more times than I can count when I have legit lost my mind. Millie has an uncanny ability to push all of my buttons and send me spiraling. So I already know that I'm extra. I've always pretty much been extra. But when it comes to my kids and having different needs and different abilities, I am obsessive and I research a ton. So I have obsessively researched ADHD, and I have learned that I have to be very intentional in how I respond to my ADHD children to ensure that I stay calm, cool, and collected. I am so far from perfect, but I have definitely made great progress. So Terrence and I are equally involved in parenting our children, but we often have very different perspectives and approaches to parenting, which can be really good, but it can also cause a bit of strain. So as I said before, I am the researcher. I read all of the books, I study the websites, I listen to all the podcasts, you name it, I'm doing it. Terrence, on the other hand, is very much a YOLO type human being. He has no interest in researching anything. He just wings it. So I find great information and I ask him to listen to this or read that. And 23 years later, I am still waiting. If I'm being honest, sometimes it makes me just want to absolutely strangle him. But I also think because we are so different in that area, we can balance each other out pretty well. So, like I mentioned, we have 3 children with ADHD, and they all present a little bit different. So, Millie, Sammy, and our 22-year-old Cole all have varying degrees of combined hyperactive and attentive type ADHD. So, Millie is 9, and she is far more hyperactive than inattentive. So, I swear Millie has been in constant motion since birth. Unless she is entrenched in her favorite YouTube videos, of course. Then there's the inattentive ADHD completely kicks in. She struggles with her short-term memory. She needs to be fidgeting or moving her body to keep her regulated. Millie has pretty big deficits in her executive functioning. She loses and forgets everything. She will beg me for a toy, and then once we finally get it for her, she's done playing with it within a day and has moved on. It makes me insane. Millie is an amazing storyteller and also tends to stretch the truth just a bit on a regular basis. Millie is also incredibly creative. She's so hilarious. She's curious and truly brilliant. Sammy is 14, and she's much more inattentive than hyperactive. She wasn't diagnosed with ADHD until middle school. In school, Sam just disconnects. She doesn't engage in class. She may or may not be listening to the teacher. No one will ever know. If she doesn't understand how to do an assignment, she just doesn't do it. But if she has friends in class, she can also be super chatty. She wasn't the clear-cut picture of ADHD, so it took a minute for everyone to get on the same page and get her diagnosed. Now at home, this child will talk nonstop. We recently took a trip out of town, and I'm pretty sure Sam didn't stop talking for the entire 5-hour round trip that we took. Don't get me wrong. I love it. I just find it hilarious how she can be so quiet at school and then so jibber-jabbering at home. Our son Cole is now 22 years old. Cole wasn't diagnosed with ADHD until his sophomore year of high school. Cole very much has inattentive ADHD, hence why a diagnosis took so long. Cole isn't a loud, chatty kid. He would sit in the back of the classroom quietly zoning out. Grades were a constant battle with him. He wasn't paying attention in class, so he didn't know what to do, when it was due, etc. He didn't give his teachers a hard time because he was zoned out, so his lack of engagement was thought of him being lazy for many years. Not only by his teachers, but if I'm being honest, from us too. It took us a long time to realize that he might actually struggle with ADHD and wasn't just being lazy. And that was such an eye-opener for us when he was officially diagnosed. Today, we're going to talk about parenting your ADHD child and not losing your ish. We will discuss common struggles and some strategies that I hope you might find helpful. So let's get this show on the road. I talk a lot about invisible disabilities. ADHD is one of those disabilities where people can be super judgmental and often lack patience and understanding. Depending on the severity of your child's ADHD, this can be really hard. Let's be real, going out in public can be a whole situation. I talked earlier about my kids and their different types of ADHD, but I'd like to break it down. The ADHD that most people talk about is the hyperactive type. Hyperactive ADHD looks like those children that can't stop moving, they're constantly fidgeting and talking nonstop. Then there's the inattentive type. These kids don't raise eyebrows at school because they're just tuned out and not disruptive. These kids often don't even hear what's being said because they're off in their own little world. And a lot of times these kids get overlooked. Lastly, you have the combined type, which is a little bit of hyperactivity and a little bit of inattentive. So kids with ADHD have a deficit with their executive functioning and can be extremely strong-willed. These kids can struggle with their short-term memory, organizational skills, lying, and risky behavior. Kids with ADHD can struggle socially and interrupt a lot. They often have a need for constant movement. These kids can also struggle academically. They're always misplacing everything and can be quite a bit defiant. Oftentimes, kids with ADHD are also diagnosed with other disabilities, so there's a whole lot going on, and the picture is usually much bigger than what the snapshot looks like. People that don't live our ADHD life often think that ADHD is simply trouble focusing and a need for movement. But when you deep dive into ADHD, that is just the tip of the iceberg. When you look below the iceberg, you may see difficulty maintaining friendships, depression and anxiety, inability to focus even without distractions, poor impulse control, sleep issues, poor sense of time, struggles with transitions from one thing to the next, hyperfixation, and as we get older, financial problems. ADHD is so much more than just a lack of focus and fidgeting. I previously mentioned executive functioning. ADHD directly affects executive functioning. So what exactly is that? What is executive functioning? Executive functioning describes the cluster of advanced cognitive skills that act as our command center as we navigate all of the complicated tasks of daily living. So what does that actually mean? Executive functioning determines our ability to stay focused, to plan and organize, resist temptation, control impulses, regulate our emotions, follow multi-step directions, and maintain our self-motivation. Children with ADHD function at 30% lower executive age than those of their peers. So if your child is 9 years old, their executive age is actually 6 years old. I think this is important to share because sometimes in the heat of it, it's nice to remind ourselves to give our child a little bit of a grace because their executive age isn't their actual chronological age. I can expect Millie to do something that a typical 9-year-old can do, and then when she can't, I often need to remind myself that she's functioning at a lower level. It allows me that opportunity to step back, take a breath, find a bit more patience, and be realistic in my expectations of her. I read a statistic a few years ago that really, really hurt my heart and was forever impactful to me. Let me read it to you. By the age of 10, children with ADHD receive 20,000 more negative messages from parents, teachers, and other adults than their friends and siblings that don't have ADHD. Let me read that one more time so we can let it sink in. By the age of 10, children with ADHD receive 20,000 more negative messages from parents, teachers, and other adults than their friends and siblings that don't have ADHD. Ouch. I don't know, that just hits a certain kind of way when I think about it. And then I think about my own kids, and I think about the students that I teach that struggle with ADHD. Let's take a minute to talk about the brain and regulation. When we talk about learning happens in our cortex. When we are in a regulated, calm place, our cortex is open, allowing us to learn. When we are escalated, dysregulated, scared, etc., our cortex starts to close down and shuts down our ability to learn new things or reason. This is so important to know because when your child is dysregulated, they are unable to reason in that moment. Your efforts to reason with your child during this time won't work. You simply can't reason with a dysregulated child. It's important to remember that the sequential order of our brains work first by getting regulated, then relating, then we are able to reason. This isn't a rule that you can break. You can't move the biological sequence around. Now, how do we do that? What does that look like exactly? When your child is having a meltdown, what do? It is 100% okay and really a good idea to not engage your child during their meltdown. Turn away from them and just don't engage. If they're being mean, you can tell them that you understand that they're really upset right now, but you will talk to them when they can speak to you in a calm tone. Millie is exceptional at pushing my buttons, causing me to get dysregulated myself. When she does this, I often make unrealistic threats of discipline. I am sure many of you can relate. I often resort to the whole, if I have to tell you one more time, you will not just lose your TV for today, but you will lose it for the entire week. I know I'm not taking the TV away for a week, but I get so caught up in the moment, I'm just throwing things out there and hoping that they work to get her to behave in the way that I want her to behave. Instead, this is the perfect time to walk away. Give yourself a few minutes to breathe and gather yourself. It is okay to ignore junk behavior as long as that behavior is not dangerous to anyone or anything. Another fun way to disrupt a meltdown is to go and lay down on the floor where your child is, or even lay upside down on your couch. Your kid will be so confused as to what's going on. This will cause them to pause, and that may just be enough time for them to snap out of their meltdown and come back to a regulated state. That'll then allow you to relate to them by saying, it must be really frustrating to not be able to go and play with your friend today, or whatever has caused their meltdown to happen. This then validates their feelings and allows you to then start reasoning with them. Some other ideas that might be helpful, you can say to your dysregulated child, hey, I'm going to run to the store or McDonald's, or I'm going to go for a walk, or whatever you think it might be. Do you want to come with me? This is an opportunity to break things up and get into a different space. And if your kid is anything like mine, once they get into a car or go for a walk, they eventually want to talk. Here are a few more tips and tricks that may be effective for you. Give your child choices whenever possible. These can be two choices that you select, but kids with ADHD like to feel in control, and giving them choices allows them to feel a sense of control. Millie hates brushing her teeth, so her choices in the morning are, you can brush your teeth and then get to watch videos before the bus comes, or you can choose not to brush your teeth and you don't get to watch videos. The choices are both your decisions, your choices for them, but it allows them to feel like they're in control and they're making the decision. You're most likely already giving choices without even realizing that you're doing it. The problem lies in where we start making demands of kids, and they are wired to be strong-willed and defiant to our demands. And so you start demanding, you must go brush your teeth, and they're just immediately going to be like, no, not doing that. Nope. You need to get dressed. Nope. And so give choices, like you can wear this or you can wear this. Let them pick which of the two outfits that they want to wear. Let them make those choices. Offering choices allows them to get what they want while letting our kids believe that they are in charge. Children with ADHD struggle with time blindness and can struggle to transition from one activity to the next. They don't track time well or keep track of time. The use of timers is really helpful in this area. We use timers regularly at our house. The timer serves as a visual reminder So we will let our kids know that they have 5 minutes left. We'll set the timer, and then they're able to track the time better. We also do a lot of prompts. You have 10 minutes left. You have 5 minutes left. You have 3 minutes left. You get it. This just allows for a much easier transition, and then the visual of the timer allows Millie to look at the clock to see exactly how much time she has left before her time is up. Children with ADHD struggle so much with their confidence and often feel less than their peers. So it's always so important to give positive reinforcements whenever you can. Look for ways to catch them doing good things. It can be as simple as, "Thank you so much for throwing away your trash. I really appreciate it." If they are honest about something that they may naturally stretch the truth on, thank them so much for being honest with you. Millie often struggles with confidence and feels less than on a regular basis. I always make a point to tell her how smart she is and how creative she is. She will write out the word dog or spell her name on her own, and I will praise her and tell her how smart she is. It's the little things that are so important to point out, that you see them, you see what they're doing, and although they may learn differently, they're still brilliant in their own way. We want to always be building up their confidence and just propping them up constantly. It's also super important for us to be very clear on our expectations when we're communicating with our ADHD kids. We really need to remember to keep it simple. Oftentimes, that really means one direction at a time. Kids struggle with multi-step directions, and so if you're spouting out that I need you to go to the bathroom, get dressed, brush your teeth, and eat breakfast, they're not going to remember all of those steps. And so it's much easier for everybody involved to just give single directions at a time, and then as soon as they complete the one task, then you can move on to the next task. If you remember back to that awful statistic that I shared about the 20,000 negative comments that our kids hear, it can be powerful also to set aside 30 minutes one day a week that's designated time just with your child. This should be something that they really enjoy doing, going to the park, going for a walk. And this isn't something that can be taken away due to bad behavior, getting in trouble at school, having a bad attitude at home. This 30-minute block is guaranteed weekly time that's special with just you and your kid, that's going to happen regardless of how bad their day is at school or how bad their behavior is at home. Many kids with ADHD are also really motivated by rewards. So just note, our kids do not do so well thinking down the road or long term. When you're offering rewards, it's often beneficial if the reward is pretty immediate. For example, if I told Millie that if she gets 2s all week at school, we will get ice cream on Friday, she would probably most likely forget what she was working for by Tuesday and lose any motivation to get all of those 2s during the week. But if I told her that if she got all 2s today at school, we could go get ice cream after school, now that would motivate her. She would remember that and she would work for that. I also want to touch briefly on the importance of visuals. Our kids are often very visual learners. Heck, I am a very visual learner. It is so easy to forget the importance of visuals when your child is verbal. I was reminded how important visuals are recently when we were packing for a trip to Texas. Millie decided that she wanted to make her own packing list. When she finished it, she showed it to me. Now, as I've said before, Millie has large deficits in reading and writing. But she finished her list and she handed it to me, and she had drawn the most incredible packing list I've ever seen. She drew every single item that she needed to bring, and it was just remarkable. It was really a smack in the face reminder to me that just because our kids may do it differently from their peers, it doesn't mean that they can't do it. Another visual we use when Millie is in meltdown mode, she struggles to articulate her needs when she's escalated. So we have visuals for different coping strategies that she can point to help her regulate. So these are graphics that are laminated and they're on a keychain. And when Millie's dysregulated, instead of throwing out ideas or having her tell me what she needs, we break out the key ring and she can point to whatever activity she feels is going to help her try to regulate. It's been so helpful for us. And so the other day I actually decided to share it with her special education team at school. And they thought it was just fabulous as well. And so now I sent them a copy and we have a copy. So now we're being consistent across the board. When Millie is dysregulated, we use the same exact strategies to help her regulate, to keep that consistency from school to home. And it's been so nice and so helpful. So we've spent a lot of time talking about the hard things that come with a strong-willed child, but let's take a minute to talk about the good stuff too. I always say that the struggles caused by ADHD when kids are younger will truly become their superpowers when they become adults. Kids with ADHD are incredibly creative. They have amazing problem-solving skills and so much energy. ADHD allows someone to hyper-focus on things and think outside the box. Many kids with ADHD have a great sense of humor, and the strong will that we see now will be incredible for those hard conversations that they will need to have as adults. Just to let you all know, our son Cole, who's now 22, has a very successful career and personal life and is doing absolutely amazing. His struggles through school has not for 1 minute defined who he has become as an adult. Raising strong-willed children is hard. Unless someone is in the trenches right alongside us, they just can't begin to understand our path. You have to find a way to give yourself breaks here and there, even if that means taking an extra 15 minutes while you pretend to go to the bathroom. It's important to date your significant other. Find that time to go out once a month and reconnect with one another. Move your body, go for walks, lift weights, do yoga, hike. Just find something that you enjoy and are passionate about and do it. Do art. There's so many options. Play an instrument. You've just got to do something for yourself. We give so much and we pour so much into our families and into our children that have different needs that we so often neglect ourselves and neglect to do things that bring joy to us. You have to make time for you and you have to give yourself grace in the process. None of us are perfect. I have said things that I immediately regret saying. We are human. Those times do not define you as the parent. After you lose it, and then you take the time to go to your child and apologize for saying that hurtful thing, that speaks far louder to the type of parent that you are and just how much you love your child. We have all been there and done that. Trust me. We talked about a lot today. We talked about the brain and regulation, strategies and ideas, things that might be helpful to you, and the importance of caring for yourself while raising your strong-willed child. Rhythm is regulating. Any kind of rhythm. It's important to remember that. And also, one of the most important things to remember is that behavior is communication. Sometimes we just need to figure out what is trying to be communicated. That is all I have for today. If you want to follow my crazy life outside of the podcast, you can find me at Life with the Hickeys on Instagram. If you have thoughts, questions, or a topic that you would love for me to talk about, please feel free to PM me. I would love to chat about it. You can also find me on Facebook at Stacy Hickey. If you feel so inclined to leave a comment or a review, that would be absolutely awesome, and I would be so appreciative. So much love to you and yours, and I will see you next time. Take care.